Hello, my name is Gina Gonzalez. I will be presenting my informative speech for my speech class. Today I will be discussing the gender wage gap, which is the difference in earnings between male and female. It's an issue that has been going on since the 1950s and is still current today. I will be discussing the topic in three main points. I will discuss how it began with background history. I will also discuss what has been done since then to improve the wage gap. I will discuss measurement laws that have been passed. I will also discuss current results statistics according to job titles and positions. Beginning with some history, women began working in the World War II, in a time when women were thought to be homemakers and were thought to stay at home to tend to their children and to their home. Since most of the men were off fighting the world in World War II, women began joining the workforce. Women were not only completing these jobs, but were also getting paid significantly less than men that previously completed the jobs. In 1942, the National War Labor Board made a formal request to all employers to please equalize the pay between men and women. This request was ignored. When the men returned from the war, women were pushed out of their positions to make room for the newly vets. In the 1960s, newspapers listed job titles according to gender, not positions, clearly stating that male were being paid a lot more than women were for equal positions. Between 1950 to 1960s, women made 59 and 64 cents at the most for every male dollar. Now since then, the Equal Pay Act was signed in June 1963 and became effective June of 1964. The Equal Pay Act clearly stated that it was unlawful for any employer to pay a woman less for an equivalent position. Now, there might be other factors such as education and experience that might weigh for a male to get paid more, but gender was not to be an outstanding factor. Between June of 1964, after the Pay Act was effective, and June of 1971, $26 million was paid to 71,000 of women of back pay. There was two main cases, the Schultz and Wheaton Glass, which is where the company tried finding a loophole through the Equal Pay Act and creating different job titles for men and women and paying the women less, but the jobs are actually equivalent. This would be equivalent to somebody being a manager and a supervisor, but having the same workload. This again reinforced the Equal Pay Act, where it was made clear that it is an equivalent job, not identical. So just because the names and positions are the same doesn't mean that the actual pay should be different. There was also another big case, which was the cornering glass work versus Benin, where they tried, the employer tried stating that they were paying women according to the going market rate, which is incorrect because there is no going market rate for women, there is going market rate for positions. And this was also clarified, which helped women in the long run to have equal pay in the workforce. Now fast forwarding to 2009, Obama went ahead and paid and signed the Lilly Ledbetter Fair Pay Act, which allowed any employee 180 days after the last paycheck to make a claim versus unequal pay, which before an employee only had 180 days after their first paycheck to make a claim. They found that many employees didn't feel comfortable making that claim while still being employed, and had many factors such as maybe losing their job or creating bigger issues in the company that they were still working for. So that this did create a lot of freedom for people to be able to step up and say that they did feel that they were being unequally paid by a particular employer. Now, to go fasting forward to today's current results, compared to 1963, women were making 59% of male wages. Reported in 2012, women were only earning 80.9% of male wages, which is still not a complete 100%, but it is still a significant decrease in the gap. But on average, in 2012, women were said to be making 77 cents per male dollar, which is still not the same. According to job industries, financial specialists still have the biggest gap of making 66% of every male salary of 100%, while computer specialists are making 88%, which is pretty much the mid-range, and then you have engineer managers, which are making 99%. You can also see that in 1960, it was thought that the #1 position for women were to be private household workers and secretaries, retail trade, and sales. And then this has changed since 2010, where women's #1 position is secretary and admin work, nurses and professionals, as well as teachers and working in elementary schools and high schools and educational background. Researchers do maybe say that it might be an issue why the gap is still so significant, because there's still older generations that are being factored into the results to date. So they do hope that as time passes and generations start leaving the workforce and start retiring, that the gap should significantly decrease. Now, why is it important to be informed? It's important for everybody to be informed of the current wage gap because we live in the United States and we should all be paid equally for our work. We are all considered equal by our gender, our race, our backgrounds. It shouldn't be anything of an issue. But it is an ongoing issue because we still have a wage gap. So we do hope that this will help inform people to make well-informed, educated decisions when taking on job titles, when accepting job offers, and they should help, I guess, being educated should eventually help you in the future to have no wage gap. So I would like to thank everybody for being here today for my speech, and I hope that you guys were all very informed. That is all.